Hi everyone. Sorry I'm a bit late. Just technical problems. I couldn't find the live button in my own event. That's what's happening when you're doing something for the first time. Hopefully next time I'll do better. Okay. So if there will be any new questions, hopefully I'll see them on my laptop. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Valery. I'm an alignment specialist and I'm here today with you on this live because lately I've been receiving a lot of questions and I just can't seem to find the time to answer all of them. So I just gathered a few of the questions. Also, a few of you asked me questions that are pretty much the same. So I have a lot of questions here and I'll try to get to as many as possible. If you have any other questions about alignment, health, well, of course not health in general, you know what I do. I'm focusing basically on our structural integration, our body alignment, our function, movement, things like that. So, okay, let's just begin. Let's see. Oh, something is not working here. Okay. Question number 1. What is alignment? Okay, yeah, you keep hearing me saying this word, but I'm assuming that a lot of you won't even know what it means. So, alignment is how our joints are stacked upon one another. It's basically how our structure, our physical structure, our body is organized when we're talking about alignment in a physical body. We're talking about how all the layers, all the levels are positioned one upon the other, and then how the soft tissue that connects all of it is adapting and being changed by that. So why is it a big focus in general? Why are we even looking at alignment, talking about alignment? Why is it a thing? A lot of our injuries or conditions or aches that we suffer from, if we're looking at them as an isolated individual issue, it becomes a problem because it's affected by the general alignment of the body. And if, let's say, my knee hurts, but it's because something is pulling in my back, or something is tilted, rotated, shifted, and it creates this extra tension, extra pull. My phone is too hot. Let's see, what can I do? Hopefully it will be okay. Yeah, so if there's anything that's creating tension in all of our body, it will create different areas where we will feel it. Like if we look at all the anatomical lines in our body, usually the pain and the injury is always at the weakest link, at the weakest spot, and this is where we feel the pain. So addressing only the weakest link, it's just as a concept, it's just not correct, because there's always somewhere else, a different place that's creating the tension to begin with, or the weakness at that place. It's just a balance game. So without looking at the general alignment, we can never find the real cause of the issue. It usually it's correct when we're talking about a chronic condition or a repetitive thing. If we're talking about an injury from a trauma, like an accident, an injury that happened in the gym because something fell on us, something hit us, something like that, the issue is isolated, and then we're looking at at an acute situation that happened due to something else, like the injury is local. But even if the injury is local, our general alignment will affect our recovery. And I will explain that as well. Let's say I was in a car accident and I injured my shoulder, okay? If the body is aligned properly and the weight functions due to that, is harmonious, is balanced, the shoulder will do its job when it recovers. Meaning, if all the muscles, the tension in them is correct, the tension in all the soft tissue is correct, the lymph can flow like it's supposed to, all the processes that are supposed to happen in that area to create healing will happen like they should. And when the tissue regenerates, it will regenerate with the proper tension, with the proper balance, and all the power game inside this area will be like it should be. On the other hand, if our alignment is all messed up and we have an injury somewhere that we're supposed to recover from, it changes the whole situation, because now when each cell is renewing itself, the old cells die and new cells are created. They are created in an environment that is not healthy and not contributing to a full recovery. So let's say the front of the shoulder is pulling to the front and then the back is too weak, and inside I have injured tissue. So this tissue will be out. It will leave the body at some point. It will be eaten and then leave through the lymphatic system, the blood, everything. The tissue will renew itself. New cells will appear. But these cells are appearing in an environment that's being constantly pulled to the front, and now these cells are already tending to go to the front. So it's like an injury is trying to recover, to heal itself, but it can never properly heal itself because the environment is not balanced to begin with. And this is why we're looking at alignment. The moment we create balance and proper alignment, when the tissue regenerates, it regenerates in the proper environment with the proper tension. And then when the shoulder regenerates, I still have the full movement. I still have all the function that's supposed to be in that area. I don't want to say joint because it's not just the joint, it's all the muscles and all the soft tissue around it as well. So this is in terms of alignment. Okay, next question. Okay, I have two questions here from a PT and a Pilates trainer from Israel. Her name is Rachel, and I will try to answer both of them in the most simplified way, because obviously not all the people that are going to watch this video, they are PTs or professionals. So I will try to do it in the easiest way for everyone. So let's go to the first question about feet. How to bring awareness to how we walk, to walk with the proper gait. Okay, so first of all, gait. To all of you who don't know what gait is, gait are the steps of the, I can't say the steps of the step. When we walk with our feet, we make steps, right? We're walking, that's a full step from when our heel touches the ground till when our toes leave the ground. So that's a full step. This step can be divided into pieces. And my understanding of what Rachel is asking is how can we, so first of all, there is a proper way to do the gait, for the gait to occur, and then how can we be aware that we are doing it in the proper way. So the question is very big, and I'll have to break it down into a few pieces. So first of all, awareness. How can we become aware? Well, it doesn't matter if it's our gait, our posture, our movement, our spiritual development, our nutrition, our thoughts, our anything actually in life. To become aware of something is a choice. So it doesn't matter if it's a physical or something that has to do with sports or exercise. Awareness is always a choice. If I want to be aware of my walking, I just choose to be aware. So when I decide that I'm going to pay attention to how I walk, starting that day, I'm aware. And I can tell you from my personal experience, when I chose to start being aware of how I walk, I just stopped thinking about all the other things that I usually was thinking when I was walking outside. I decided to walk a lot more for no specific reason except for that sole reason of walking and thinking about how I walk. So I wasn't thinking only about how I position my foot on the ground. I was thinking about my entire alignment. And when did I choose to do that? When I decided to do the transition to barefoot shoes. So I know that it's also a trend lately, and a lot of people are just recommending to buy barefoot shoes, minimalistic shoes, and start walking in them. And for the majority of people nowadays who are so used to walking in very restricting shoes, this is not the right thing to do, because without awareness, you're only going to put yourself in danger of an injury. Your body is it's so different and adapted to being, for your foot to be so not mobile, not changing, not elastic. It can't move like it should walk. Like it should move. So the whole body had to adjust to that. And doing this transition should be something that we have a lot of awareness and mindfulness to. So, I think I'm losing my track of thought. How can we be aware of how we walk? So, when I want to be aware of how I walk, I just decide that since now I am going to focus by choice on how I walk. And if I want to adjust the way I walk, I need to have the information, the knowledge. I need to first of all know what am I doing now, what is my alignment right now, how does my gait look right now, and what am I changing it to. So the question, Rachel, when you're going to watch it, I don't even know if you like it when I call you Rachel and not Rachel, but okay. The question of how can we be aware to the proper gait is just too complex, you know. You have to know how you want your gait to look like. What are you changing it from, and what are you changing it to? If you want me to explain in general how we're supposed to walk, it would be pretty easy. So the first step is when we put our heel on the ground. Usually the foot is pretty straight. We move one leg to the front. It should happen, this movement of moving to the front should happen in the hip. For the majority of us right now, it doesn't happen in the hip because our hips are so restricted by sitting down on chairs, by not walking enough. We're losing this whole pendulum movement. Now we have only the movement to the front. Usually our psoas and our hips are too short and restricted at the front. But let's assume we already know that, we are aware, we are working on that, we fixed it, okay? Now we have the ability for the leg to go to the back. Okay, now we have the full movement of the leg at the hip joint, and it can move to the front and to the back. So step number one is leg going to the front, heel touches the ground while the other leg is behind us. Okay, step number two, the external arch goes on the ground. Step number three, the front of the foot, the forefoot, touches the ground. Step number four, the foot in pronation, the foot falls inwards a bit, toes touch the ground and push the ground to the back. So that's how we move forward, by pushing the ground with our toes behind us. It's like rowing. We're moving something. We're constantly taking a step and moving the ground, pushing the ground to go behind us. This is how generally a gait looks like. The problem is that the restrictions in the foot affect our body, and the restrictions in our body affect our foot. So it's like a cycle. It's like a loop. It's like one affects the other, and without mindful intervention, we can't break it, we can't separate it, like there's nothing to stop it. So if we want to create a change there, we will have to interfere with the way this whole thing looks like, the process of walking for us looks like right now, create a change, and create this constant state of readjusting. So let's assume I'm changing my shoes, or I'm becoming more mindful and aware of what I'm doing, and I'm repositioning my hips. I'm changing the tilt of my pelvis. Maybe I'm working on my hips. Maybe I see that my hips are way too restricted and I need to work on the muscles. So I'm doing stretches daily. I'm doing stretches I think that there are general stretches and there are stretches that are a lot more personalized. So let's just leave it at that. I'm doing stretches. I'm trying to release my hips, open up a whole new range of movement. And now I'm aware, and I'm changing the way I walk. So I hope I answered the question in terms of awareness. So awareness is just a choice to be mindful. And gait, proper gait, it's something that if you really want to go deep into that range, you really need to analyze each person individually. You really need to look at how each one, if you're talking about your clients, for instance, you will have to look at their alignment and their movement individually. You have to check their gait individually. You have to tell them that this is where they're at right now. This is where they're going and how it should look like. I think it's very good to use visual, kind of visual tools to help people understand. So maybe a video or something, and show them how a healthy proper gait should look like, walking in general, or what should change in their body. Come up with a plan, and then they can be mindful and aware of that. Because if they don't have the what I'm going from and where I'm going, like what's the process? What are they aware of? Just being aware, it won't change anything. They need to know what they're changing. Okay, so this is in terms of gait. Next question, also Rachel's question about knees. What are contraindications for exercise when we have knee injuries? I'm translating it from Hebrew, so I hope I'm answering the right questions. Okay, the question went something like that. Knee injuries. What if we have knee injuries? What are the contraindications for exercise? Okay, so again, big question, and especially it's a bit too broad. Exercise is a very big general term. The fact that we have a knee injury is never a contraindication for exercise. It can be a contraindication for one specific exercise, but nothing should be a reason to not exercise. And those people who know me and know how I work and how I think, they know that I'm not an exercisey type of person. I always encourage organic movement throughout the day, throughout our lives. I do think that exercise, let's say a gym or a studio, has its place. Personally, I also know that it benefited me a lot in the past. But I think that even if you are choosing to do that, it would be way more efficient to have this hour in a gym if you have a lot of movement throughout the day and your body is just adapted to constant movement, to loads, to stretching, to just big ranges of movement, of motion. So I don't even know how to say that. If something is, it's like saying that something is a contraindication to do to exercise in general. It's pretty much like saying that an injury is a contraindication of movement in general. Sorry, and there's nothing that should be a contraindication of movement for movement. I'm not even sure how to say that properly in English. So we're supposed to move all the time, okay? Even when we sleep, we're supposed to move. So movement should happen, should occur at all times. If there's a specific knee injury, and also it depends which one, it depends if there's a torn ligament, if there's something, just tension in the muscles and their chronic pain, it depends if the cartilage is almost gone or dry or crooked or something, like what's the injury? And then when we understand what the injury is, what movement can make it worse right now, we will avoid this movement and look for ways around it. So in the worst case scenario, let's say we cannot move both legs at all, we will still exercise and do all the other things that we can do for our torso, our arms, our shoulders, our necks, our backs, which is really important, our feet, by sitting down, lying down, depends if somebody can't move their legs at all. It's still not a reason to move all the other things. And again, it goes to the first thing that I said about alignment. There's tension throughout our entire body, and there's a specific way in which the organization of the body affects all the smaller parts of it. If there's no movement throughout the system, it's like there's no life throughout the system. So if there's an injury in the knee, but the movement in my hip joint is restricted, or if I have an injury in my knee and my ankle is not working properly, healing cannot happen in my knee. We need that to happen throughout the whole chain, the whole anatomical line train that creates movement, tension, and flow in the injured area. It's a must. There is no recovery without it. We also need not only movement, we need strength, we need mobility, we need a lot of things to happen that will affect the injured area. So I would just change the question range, and instead of saying what type of injuries are telling us not to exercise, I would change my question into, if I have this injury, what type of exercise can I do without making it worse? And even better, what type of exercise can I do to make it way better? What type of exercise will contribute to my knee injury in recovery? I think this should be the number one question. How can I move? And not only in exercise, I know that it's way more important for you as a PT, but just for each and every one of us, the question should be, what type of movement can increase the recovery rate and quality. Because we want the whole body to be aligned and mobile, stable, in balance. And then when the injured area will recover, it will recover while remaining mobile versus stable in the proper balance. We will still have the movement in all the anatomical line like it should be. You of all people would know how complex this whole thing is, and how many muscles are involved, how many tendons, ligaments, fascia layers are involved. Therefore, we need to make sure that all of them are aligned and working well. Okay, if you have any more questions, text me later. I know that you're busy right now. You will watch it later, not in the live. You can always text me, you know that. Okay, let's look at the other ones, and let me check the time. The whole idea is for this live to go something like 40 minutes. I think I still have like 10 minutes. Okay, another question. What is alignment? Knees, feet. Okay, and Sweetheart Beck asked me, what does a session with me looks like? So I know it's not something that most people would ask. Like, I think in all the smaller groups, people ask me a lot about it, because the whole issue of alignment is a bit different to what you would do with an osteo or a physio. So that's why I find it interesting and important to explain. It's usually, the sessions with me are not short term, because they're not focused. If you understand, when you understand what alignment is and how much work with the tissue it requires to change the whole thing, how we need to retrain our body, retrain our brain, create new options and possibilities. When you understand that, you understand that it's something that cannot be short term. It has to be a process that you're committed to, and you are working on it daily with awareness, with exercise. Sometimes my part in it is not as big, because I mean the hands-on part, because it's like a kickstart to the whole process. But the majority of the work is still, I'm only guiding. The majority of the work is still yours. So how a session would look like? First of all, of course, I have to say that it's very individual. Hey cat, yay. Okay, now I will forget what I wanted to say. I'm happy to see you, sweetheart. Just I will repeat that for you, because you probably didn't hear. I answered a few questions before, and the question that I'm answering right now is how does a session with me looks like? I'm assuming that anyone who works with alignment, any structural integrator, or somebody who combines a few of these techniques and looks deeper than just at the symptom that the clients are coming with, it would pretty much look the same. So when a new client arrives, the first thing that we do is we discuss what bothers them. So what is the issue? Whether it's an injury or a chronic issue, or just general concern because they can see that their posture is not good, or the variety is huge, because sometimes I'm getting people who just sprained their ankle. Sometimes it's people who just see that they have feet pain or neck pain for a lot of years, maybe even something that's very long lasting, and they understand that something in their environment is creating it. Lately I see more people who are they are interested in a very active lifestyle, so they want to, when they finish working, they want to play tennis, they want to play with their kids, they want to run, they want to do all of these things. But because the change is so fast from sitting in the office to running, it creates pain, it creates injury, their tissue is not adjusted to it. So I deal with all this variety of things. And so first of all, we need to understand what the problem is, what bothers the person. Then we're doing a whole alignment assessment. So the way it usually looks like is we take photos, if the client is interested in that, yeah, because for the documentation and for in order for us to compare constantly. So we're taking photos, we're looking at the body in a static state, meaning when you're just standing, sitting, and lying down, preferably next to a wall, because then we have a straight line to compare it to. And we're doing a few adjustments, meaning I'm changing, let's say I'm changing the rotation of the foot, I'm changing the position of the pelvis, the tilt of the pelvis, and we're looking at what's stopping us, what's the restriction, where do we get more tension, where do we have less movement, what pulls where, what takes us where, and then we can pretty much see what creates the possibility of injury, the potential of injury or pain or anything in the alignment of our body. The second thing would be movement. I'm checking specific ranges of movement and specific basic movements to see which ones cannot be done properly. Because if there's something that's pretty general, let's say a bend, a squat, a hinge, it's just those movements are not something that we're doing in a gym. We're doing them daily and lots of times during the day. When we wash dishes, when we pick up our kids, when we're just walking outside, like walking, sitting, bending, all of these things, they're basic, they're a part of our lives. And we have to be able to do them without losing too much energy and without too much restriction in one area, because then it will affect the whole anatomical line, like I said before. So those are pretty much the basic tests. Of course, if there's a specific issue, we're checking a lot more around that specific issue. And then we pretty much come up with a plan. We discuss where we want to go, what we want to achieve, and we're starting to work on that. So the rehab plan itself will involve hands-on, meaning myotherapy, myofascial release, lymphatic drainage, all of those things like massage, stretches, different things that we see that we need in order to create length in one area, strength in a different one. Strength is more exercise, so it will be later, but we're opening up the restrictions and the things that are bothering, like not bothering, the restriction is pretty much, is the best way to describe it. The restrictions that the client cannot do for himself or herself. This is where I come in. I help you with the process to make it faster. So this is my part, and then we go into exercise. So we have the hands-on massagey things, then we have the stretches to create length, and then we go into exercise. Now the exercise is a whole universe, because when we do movement, we can do movement to improve balance, to improve stability, to improve strength, to improve proprioception, to improve, did I say strength? I think so. Well, all of those things. So we have the stability, the mobility, the everything, just function in general. We need to create a whole library of movement. Okay, I don't know. It's not my phone. Okay, so we have to recreate all the movement that we should have in the library in our head and also in the library in our tissue. So we're recreating that to, let's say, if we need a specific movement. If we need to create a specific movement and we are missing a few pieces of it, we need to build it. That's number one. Number 2, we have to practice, retrain the brain and the body to be adjusted to it, to just be used to it, to do it easily, to integrate it into our life. So this is like the main thing. But then there's another part to the sessions, which is something that's also integrated in the sessions, but closer to the end of the process. We will look at that a lot more. The more we go forward, the more we look at your environment, the client's environment at home. So we're thinking, obviously I'm not coming to your house, we're talking about it. You will explain to me, maybe show me pictures, maybe just describe the way your living room is set up. What's your lifestyle in general? How much do you sit? How much do you walk? How much do you bend? How much do you do each movement of those basic movements? How many hours do you work? What are your hobbies? We're looking into each one of them, and first of all, trying to find what are the things that you're missing. Let's say if you think that you work in an office you have 5 hours of work in a day, and you're saying I'm sitting for 5 hours, you're pretty much missing all the times that you're sitting down when you're driving, sitting down when you're eating. You're doing a lot of other stuff as well when you're sitting down. So we need to find all of these blank spots that you're missing. When we find them, when we indicate them, I think, is it correct? I don't know, no idea. We need to find these things that you're missing and to map your lifestyle in a more realistic way. And then we can play with it. We can see how we can bring in more movement, how we can bring in how usually you go to a physio and then you're getting exercises. So my whole idea is how to bring those specific movements that will help you with rehab without doing it as an exercise. How to combine them and integrate them into your daily life. How to combine them with something that you're already doing. How to bring them into your life. And I'm trying to think of an example for you. Let's say I need you to do 20 squats, okay? You can choose that you're doing an exercise right now, that you're squatting right now 20 times, or you can do something like picking up your kid 20 times, and then you will squat with weights in your hands. It's like where can you find the same movement in your life already that you're already doing? How can you bring it in there, into your life, and make it a constant thing? And then obviously as the sessions go on, we constantly adjust. We see what's the thing that you need now. And we're always reevaluating. So I can always reposition you again next to the wall, check your alignment again, see the tilts in all of the layers, see where we're at now, what is the next level we're working on, and give you new stuff to work on. So you're working in the clinic and you're working at home. So that's why I work long term. It's processes, it's not one session. Okay. It's a, well, you understand, it's a process. It's not a short-term thing. Let's see, I think I will do another one, and that's it. Okay, are bunions treatable? So I know that the myth say that the bunions are not treatable, and the only way to affect it is surgery. And I'm here to tell you that it's not true. I know that it's like a big issue for a lot of people, especially people that were told by surgeons that it's impossible to change it, that it's growth on the bone or something like that, and you have to cut it, you have to do something mechanical, like to implant some metals in it, but it's not true. So in order for you to understand why bunions are treatable, we need to understand how bunions are created. So bunion, to those of you who don't know, hallux valgus is when the big toe on the foot is moving towards the center of the foot, and then we're getting this bone that's sticking outside. So we have all the toes, and the big toe, instead of being, well, actually it's supposed to be here, it goes inwards, and then we have this bone that's sticking outside. Those of you who have it definitely know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's painful, sometimes it's creating tension in the mid arch and the whole ankle. It can go up the whole leg. So yeah, it's not very nice. Rob, what are you sending me there? You know, I cannot open a link when I'm talking. You know that, right? Okay, so it's when the big toe is rotated. And why is it rotated to begin with? Usually because of our shoes. Because our foot is supposed to be with a natural pretty wide splay. And when we're wearing shoes that are restricting the ability of the foot to spread out, the soft tissue cannot go anywhere, the bones cannot go anywhere. In time, it contracts all the bones, it contracts all the toes, and then the toes just have nowhere to go. The big toe is rotating. Yeah, I saw it. Cool. Thank you. And the bunion is actually the base of the big toe. When the toe is moving here to the middle, the bone is sticking out. So basically that's the whole thing. It just, the big toe, because it didn't have anywhere to go, it went into the center. That's it. And what happens in surgery is that they're cutting off this piece of bone, cutting off the joint, and putting a metal thing here that brings the big toe here, and now you have a whole Robocop thing that's going on inside. Now, in severe cases, sometimes it's the only way, but not because there's nothing to do about it in any other way. Just because for a lot of people, I personally had clients like that when I explain to them what it will take to create a change, they just say that it doesn't suit their lifestyle. They're saying that I understand that I can change it that way, but the time it will take me or the work it requires, I cannot do that. Whether it's because of their lifestyle, their work, their emotional state, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It just, they say that it doesn't suit them. As long as they understand that the risk of the same thing happening again, or that after surgery they can live with the same pain or even worse, as long as they understand that that's a risk, go ahead, do the surgery. And of course that you will need rehab. You will need preparation for the surgery and rehab after the surgery, which is much easier to avoid it to begin with, just by doing the same work without the surgery. It's the same thing. So sometimes it just seems like it doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't make sense to me. Why would you choose to do that? But okay, I do understand that sometimes for people, their feet are in such a bad state that the whole journey of recovery, it's a lifestyle. It's pretty long. Yeah, it's like you will need to adjust your entire life to adjust your body to what you want it, where you want it to go. How does this thing looks like, the recovery? So as we said, bunions are created by restricting the toes and the metatarsals. So number one would be to stop restricting the toes. So we have to look at our shoes. And this is, by the way, one of the biggest reasons for people who do not want to do the work. They just love their shoes and they don't want to look at anything else. They're just not willing to consider a different shoe because of the way it looks, because of so many other things. Okay, so how can we change our shoes, and what are we changing them from, what we're changing it to? So we want to change our shoes with the narrow toe boxes and very restricted movement to shoes with way wider toe boxes that will allow a much wider splay, and we call it functional shoes, just shoes that are allowing movement, natural movement in the way it should happen, which again, it doesn't have to be a barefoot shoe, it doesn't have to be minimalistic, you don't have to go from the worst to the best, because it just, any change that's not gradual, any change that's drastic will create issues. Our tissue needs to adjust, our brain needs to adjust, it's a process. So if you are not doing, you can go from your very restricting shoe to a barefoot shoe if you're willing to work before you do the change. If you're doing the proper exercises, you have your alignment, you have your exercises, you have your new variety of movement that you need, and then you do the transition. Or you can do a gradual transition. You can change, you can buy a new shoe with one of the things that you want to see in like improve one aspect. Okay, so if your issue is bunions, you know that your foot is way wider than your shoes, and your shoes are creating shoe-shaped foot instead of it being the other way around, because they're restricting the movement, they're restricting the structure. You would look for a wider shoe, and then you can look at shoes that are considered transition shoes. So they're not barefoot, they have a sole, they have everything, but their toe box is way wider, and usually they're zero drop, meaning the heel and the toes are level. So this is number one, we're changing the shoes. Number two, you want to bring in movement, because you saw, I said before that you have, when we're talking about movement, we have the brain, the library in our brain, which is the option of movements that we have there right now, and we have the body, the structure, which is the ability, our ability to make a movement. So let's say I want to do a new movement and I never did before. I need to first of all know that my brain knows how to do it. I have this option here. And second, that my body is able to do it, because if I never trained a muscle, I cannot all of a sudden do a completely new movement that I never did, because my muscles don't know how to do it. They're not strong enough. They're just, if I never did a pull-up in my life, I won't be able to just do 10 pull-ups just because I just want to do it right now. It doesn't work like that. You need to teach the movement, you need to train the ability, you need to train the muscles, the relevant muscles. So just changing our shoes it's enough only if we're training by walking. If I will change my shoes to better shoes, and now I'm walking every day, I'm running, I'm climbing, I'm doing these things, obviously gradually built from a little bit to more and more and more hours during the day, then it's enough. But if I'm not willing to do that, or I don't have the ability to do that, I will have to do it artificially. And then I need to bring in specific exercises, like moving my toes every day, like using a rubber band. They're like those specific small rubber bands that are used only for toe exercises. Or even, the regular one like you find in Pilates studios. You can put it on the big toe, pull it, hold it, just to create, what's the word? I forgot the word. Just to create resistance. To create resistance and then train the big toe. Just work on the movement that is restricted at the moment. Work on the movement in the opposite direction. I'm pretty much telling you everything how to do it. You don't even need anyone else to help you with that. You can do it yourself. When you understand the concept, the principle, you understand how to go the other way. If right now, if your big toe was supposed to be facing here, but now it's facing here, you want to bring it back here. So you will work on with massages, on moving it from the foot. You will work on strengthening and creating this movement, this ability. There are so many exercises you can find online. You don't need somebody to show you. If you need, usually where we the therapists come in, and there are a lot of therapists who are doing not only people that are working with alignment. There are a lot of people who are doing natural podiatry, people who are doing even some myotherapists that are aware of these things. They are doing the same stuff. They are helping you with the beginning, with the hardest, toughest part of opening up the restricted tissue, especially because it's painful. When something didn't move for so long, it's painful to get it to move again, to create flow in that tissue again. So this is the biggest part, I guess, for the support. Most of all, it's the support, is to know that what you're doing is correct. But it's definitely doable at home by yourself. If you know what you're doing, you can do it yourself. So I think it's enough for one live. Hopefully next time I'll figure out how to do it from my laptop, and then it will be easier. Maybe I can show you stuff. I still have a bunch of questions here that I didn't answer. I just don't want it to be too long. Send me questions. You can share this live. I would be very happy if you'll share this live with your friends, and whether they're just into exercise, whether they have things to heal from, they suffer from pain, whether they're professionals, trainers, and stuff like that. I would love for you to share this video with others so that you can send me more questions, and hopefully in a week time, exactly at the same time, I will do another live and I will be able to answer more questions. Okay, so the whole idea is for me to do it once a week. You are sending me questions. You can write questions. Now that I actually see everything that you're writing on the screen, I would be able to answer questions that you're writing to me during the live. I hope it's helpful. If there's something that you would like for me to change, to add, to something that's missing, let me know. Okay, because I'm doing these lives for you. So whatever you want to get from it, tell me. Let me know. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye everyone. See you next time.